Hi everybody, welcome to our 4 o'clock live. It's a beautiful day in Orange County. I'm here with Andrew. Hi Andrew.
Hi Jenny.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic today. It's Friday.
We love your shoes.
Thank you.
We were all talking about your shoes.
They were a steal at Macy's.
Right on. You guys, if you can't tell, he's got baby blue ones on and they're amazing. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you work at Gratitude Lodge.
I do. So I've been working there for about 1.5 years now. Okay. I started as support staff. I actually went through there as a client and got sober there, and I've stayed connected with the owners through my whole sobriety. Mark and Brooks, they're, closest thing to angels in my life that I think anyone could be. And they recently promoted me to clinical outreach, and then as well as helping with admissions.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Quite the journey.
It's been quite the journey, yeah.
So I know today we wanted to talk about something that you were passionate about. I know you're passionate about recovery and working in recovery, but one thing that we had discussed was talking about young people that have to come out with being in their addiction. How do you do that? How do you come out in that space? How do you say to your friends, to your family, I'm an addict? I know for myself, that kept me sick for a really long time because I was in denial with myself, but I was in denial with everybody else in the sense that I didn't think anyone knew I had a problem. I felt really shameful. I felt embarrassed. I was sitting in ego. And I thought that it would look like I was weak if I had to tell anybody I had a problem. And I know there's that stigma around that with addiction and mental health. So with you and your story, how did that happen for you? What is your backstory? How did you get into recovery? And how did you talk to your friends and family about that?
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that everyone's story is different and every situation is different. We definitely run in, at least working in treatment, a lot of parents who are enablers, parents who don't want to accept, and that obviously makes things more difficult.
Yeah.
Where I come from, addiction kind of is in my family. I have 2 brothers in recovery and a mom in recovery. My mom just got 21 years, so she's legal in the program.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it was very interesting for me. Growing up as a kid, I never really felt in and having, I'm a triplet. And having
a triplet?
Yeah.
So your 2 brothers are your twins?
Right? Yeah,
okay,
essentially.
So
it's the 3 of us, and that's it. My parents were like, we're done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Identical?
Fraternal. So I always describe it as like, there's me, I was the firstborn, and the lastborn, we look completely different, and then Brennan is a mixture of us. And
wow, that's really cool.
And it's the same way with personalities. Me and we couldn't be more different, and it's crazy how different we are, but how similar we are, and a lot of our struggles, and then as well as a lot of our triumphs from those struggles. So, I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I had a great family. I love my parents and I love my brothers. And, around 13, I tried my first drug at an Olive Garden bathroom with a buddy of mine. And, I guess the breadsticks weren't on point that day. I don't know why I tried it. I just tried it.
What did you try?
I tried hydrocodone was the first thing I tried. I didn't take the typical route. About 1 year later, I started smoking weed, and I wasn't really addictively using. It was like maybe once in a while, like once every 3 months. And then I got into smoking pot pretty regularly, and then at 16, I was at a party, and there was a bottle of Peach Pinnacle vodka, probably the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. But when I took that first sip of it, I knew right then and there I was an alcoholic because I kind of grew up in recovery with my mother. And by the way, I liked it. And I finished half the bottle, threw up, and then came back and finished the rest.
Wow.
And I knew that wasn't normal, but I wasn't willing to accept it, and I didn't want help. I'm one of the stubborn people that I'm like, I got to go through it. I had some trauma, in between those years that kind of, I think, fueled that a little bit, and it was untreated, and I didn't want to talk about it. I had some sexual trauma that I don't even think I've really talked about with my parents, but I've talked about with my sponsor, my therapist, and people I'm close with in recovery. And I was listening to what you were talking about on the Red Songbird Foundation podcast about, becoming a survivor rather than a victim, because I don't think you ever really forget it, but you can use it so much to help other people. But just to kind of carry on, my story's not that really interesting. I didn't have these like crazy, escaping the cop type deal. I did have some run-ins with the police, but I was just at home or at the bar drinker by myself. And I remember one day getting a phone call from my brother. I had kind of hit rock bottom almost, not quite there, but almost. And he reached out. He was in California at the time. He's in New York now. And he said that there's a opportunity out here to get sober. And I had been trying it for a couple months. And so I came out here and I saw the sobriety and the recovery that was out here. And I made the decision to move out here with him. He said we would get an apartment. He kind of tricked me to come out here. And so, I gave him money to get an apartment, and I set on my way. And when I got out here, he was like, dude, we can't get in until next month. We got to do sober living. I failed the drug test. And Mark and Brooks, the owners of the sober living, also the owners of where I live or work now, were like, you got to go to detox. And I said, forget that. And I went to a hotel for a couple days, wasted all my money. My parents weren't going to take me back. And I was sitting in the parking garage of the Holiday Inn by myself, getting high. And I bursted into tears. I realized how completely alone I was at that moment. And it wasn't because that there weren't people willing to help. It was because I didn't want help. And it was that moment that I reached out for help. And I called Mark, and he met up with me and got me into Gratitude Lodge. And the rest is pretty much history. I mean, I got a sponsor. I do work 12-step program. I go to a meeting pretty much every day. I work with others. And that's where I found my relief and my sanity within AA.
Yeah. So that's quite the image, just visualizing that when you're at the Holiday Inn, right? You said, okay, no disrespect to the Holiday Inn, but you're there, you're in this moment, and you're crying, and you don't have any money, and you're in your addiction. What does that feel like to be in that moment of surrender? Because I know people who are watching this have either been in that situation or could be in that situation where it's just that utter powerlessness of this substance over you, and at such a low point. What did that feel like, and what would your advice, suggestion be to someone that's in that moment if they don't have the people like you had to call? What would you suggest?
My biggest suggestion is look for help. There's tons of people willing to help. It's amazing when you do reach out for help, how many people are willing to stick their hands out. I never really realized that till sobriety. But to describe the feeling is kind of one of those situations, like if you're in it, you know it. And it's an indescribable feeling of loneliness and kind of realizing where your life is taking you and where it could take you. I had this weird realization when I was meditating early on in sobriety, and it sounds weird, but I came face to face with like my alcoholic demons, and I basically was like, you know what, I'm going to show you that I'm not like this loser. I can have relationships with other people. I can help other people. I can make something of myself. And the way I did that was through other people. We talked about before the idea of like being self-made is, in my opinion, ignorant. I don't think anybody is self-made. And I think that there's a lot of people who have helped me on my journey. I'm a product of a lot of people. I'm a product of like what Gratitude Lodge had to offer, what AA has to offer, what my sponsor, what my friends have to offer. I take knowledge from each one of those people and advice, and I try and do my best to live that in my life. I don't always work it perfectly. I still do make mistakes, but I don't have to go back to that moment that I was in the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
And it's by reaching out for help and continuously reaching out for help. I didn't just get sober and life became like rainbows and sunshine, and it's still not to this day. I have an amazing life, a life that I never thought I would have, but it's not perfect. And when I get in those moments, I have to reach out for help. For me, it's praying to higher power, talking to other alcoholics, talking to my therapist. And so, yeah, I mean, it's an indescribable feeling, and you got to reach out for help. Like, you can't do it on your own. No one can.
I think that's so important that you said that, because a lot of times people feel like they're just self-made in whatever aspect of their life, and that whole ego-driven mindset, you know, and to not be like that and be the opposite, and realize, like you do, with that self-awareness of, hey, all these people helped me, and I'm part of a group of people, this family, this extended family, is just a really cool way to look at it. And when I look at my life, it's the same thing, you know, it's all these people that have helped along the way when we surrender and are willing to ask for that help. And when we're doing the right thing, these doors that we were talking about also, these doors open, like beyond your wildest dreams, you know, these promises, they do come true. And yes, it takes time. And we have these struggles. God knows I do too, all the time. But being able to tap into our resources, you know, our little toolbox of these people in our lives and within ourselves, and knowing that we don't do it on our own, we do it together.
And we talked about, you know, it's the doors that you didn't expect to open. You know, if you asked me when I first got sober, like what I expected out of sobriety, like I would have sold myself completely short, like, you know, and it was, you know, because I was materialistic based and not, you know, I'm a little more holistic now. I realize that, like, it really is like the sunsets and the sunrises that, like, mean the most in the world. And to me, I'm about to be a father. My girlfriend, I am. Yep.
Congratulations.
So I'm actually leaving here and going to the baby shower right after this at 6 o'clock. And yes, and I'm very excited. I have, in my opinion, the world's best girlfriend. She means the world to me. And I wouldn't have been able to have the kind of relationship I do with her today if it wasn't for sobriety and the tools I learned in there. I realize my relationships today are different, whether it's with her or my friends, because I don't always look for what I can gain. I look for, you know, what we can do together.
Selfless,
you know?
Qualities.
Yeah, and that's not to say that I'm not always selfless. Like, I definitely have selfish days. Human. Yeah, and I definitely, and I think that's important to realize for a lot of people, is don't be too hard on yourself. You know, it really is about the progress. Like, and that takes time, and, you know, some things you may not be able to ever change, but it's the willingness to be able to change that means the difference, right?
So in sobriety with your girlfriend, what would you say are your positive traits that you've brought into the relationship in sobriety that you didn't have when you were in your addiction?
Being able to listen, I think, is one of the biggest things. It's not always my way, and that's tough. You know, I'm like, because I always know right. I always know the best way, right? Like, in my mind, that's what I think. I'm like, and being able to make compromises with that person, and also realize that I may not be doing the best job, you know, and I need to take a look yeah, I mean, it's incredible. She's got 7 years sober. She got sober when she was 17, and she's a big inspiration for my sobriety as well. And we motivate each other. You know, we always joke with each other about making sure to call each other sponsors. Like, when she's either going off the rails or I am, she's like, you need to call your sponsor right now. And I love that, because it is a reminder that I need. And I think another thing is having each other's backs, and I try and do that with my friends, and being able to always be there for that person.
Having that accountability, yeah, for sure. So what would you tell somebody out there right now that is struggling with addiction, that hasn't told anybody that they're an addict, that they need to come out with this? What would be your suggestion?
There is a solution. You know, there is a different way of living out there. There's proof by the bazillion people that are out here in Southern California that are sober and who have changed and made better lives for themselves. But to do it kind of on your own time, you know, don't do it for someone else or for someone else's time. It's very difficult. In other situations I've noticed, not in mine, it was very easy for me to come out to my parents and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic, and they're like, oh yeah, no kidding. Like, yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, like, if they're not ignorant people, they know before you know that you have a problem. I actually have a text message on my phone from my grandma, you know, basically saying you drink too much, and I still have that saved, and I look at it every now and then, because my grandma's legit my angel. Like, she was sent from above to look after me, and I'm very thankful for that text. And it's crazy the things that you become thankful for in sobriety. You realize that, how you respond to pain and failure is what defines you, and you learn the most in that, Not to say that I like being in pain, but I like what it teaches me and propels me forward.
Absolutely. What was it like growing up in a family of alcoholics?
So you have to add the triplet aspect in there as well, I think.
Right. And that was, can I ask this, was that just naturally, it just happened that way? It was just triplets?
Yeah, well,
wow.
yeah, so we, my parents had some help,
Okay.
and not to get into their personal stuff, but, they were aiming for one and popped out three.
Got it, okay.
I don't know how they did it. I mean, I'm preparing for one kid right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is
three.
A little overwhelming, but exciting. And to think of doing that times three is insane. But to tell you the truth, alcohol brought us together. I remember growing up, we fought all the time. I remember, we hit each other with baseball bats. I Superman punched my brother on a trampoline once, and we fought a lot. And our addictions, we were able to kind of, the sick group together. You're not lonely in your disease. You want to bring other people down with you, and we all fed off of each other. And but the flip side of that is we've all gotten sober together, and we've all been there to lift each other up. It's pretty cool. My one brother that's back in North Carolina got sober a year ago, and I haven't seen him sober. And I get to go home. I got vaccinated, and they got vaccinated, so I get to go home and see him sober for the first time.
Wow.
And I've seen my other brother sober. He's the one who helped get me sober, and I'm really looking forward to that. But it pushes you to want to be better in sobriety and to be better to them, right? And to be understanding. And we understand each other a lot more, I think, now, our struggles. And then as well as our triumphs. And, I love my family, and I'm very fortunate. And I realize that I've got to look at it through different lenses working in treatment. A lot of the stuff that some people come in with, it hits differently. And it makes you appreciate and be grateful for the family that you do have.
Right,
I was fortunate.
I
was very fortunate.
So what's it like for you in the past when a family member has relapsed? How do you get through that emotionally?
It's tough. You have to come into acceptance of, like, this is a disease, right? And it's not a perfect world, and you have to accept that this person's struggling. I have had to deal with family members and friends going out just like anybody else, and it comes down to acceptance of you can't work their program, you can't work their sobriety for them. And that's tough, right? Especially as someone who's like naturally a control freak like myself. I want to call them and be like, you got to do this, and that. And I can't do that, and I have to take a back seat. I can offer my suggestion and, be like, hey, I'm in this meeting, especially with the Zoom, which is awesome. I can be like, hey, I'm in this meeting, you want to join? And I've been able to join and stay connected through Zoom AA with my family.
Yeah.
But I would say to anyone that has family in recovery, you can't do it for them. And
you can't love them sober.
Yeah.
You can't love anybody sober.
Yeah.
Right?
And well, it's tough, dealing with relapse is always tough of a close one. It hits you different, especially when you're sober. Now, when you're loaded, you're like, all right, let's go. I can get my partner back, right?
Yeah.
But in sobriety, it's really hard. And, you got to reach out. It's like anything else that causes you trouble or discomfort in terms of negative feelings. You need to reach out for help, and because it's out there, and you're not alone in this, and other people have gone through what you're going through. Like, it's amazing how many things that I thought made me unique, right, to other people, that when I talk about it, I'm like, holy crap, you went through the same thing that I did. And you're able to create a bond with someone else when you get vulnerable like that you wouldn't normally be able to create.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, I'm so unique.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that's gone through this.
I'm so special, right?
I'm so special, even though it was something bad.
Exactly.
I'm still like, it's the worst thing happened to me, and that's what we do in our disease.
Well, we love to play the victim.
We do, and then we can get into solution though and recovery, and find that relatability and look for the similarities and go, wow, this person went through it too, and having that support with each other. So when you were younger, you went through some trauma in your life. How were you able to overcome that? Did you do that through, what sources did you do it through that you were able to overcome that and find forgiveness, or at least move on from it?
Yeah, so I've fully come to a forgiveness of that person. I realize that they may have been going through something, and they may have gone through something that made them like that. And at the end of the day, I'm still here and I'm still walking, and I can either be a victim, because at the end of the day, like when I think about it and I get lost in it, like I'm only hurting myself. Right. That's not to say that it doesn't haunt me on some days, but I will say, like, it's hard for me to phrase this in a way, because I don't want to seem insensitive for other people that have gone through it, because everybody's experience with it is different, and it can be really traumatic, and it was for me to some extent, for a while, until I got sober and into therapy. Therapy was a big thing for me, especially going and talking about it in groups. I think, for people with trauma and connected with disease, like it really is like getting into a program of whether it's the Edge or Gratitude Lodge and going through it. I think it's very crucial, because you have professionals who have dealt with this before. One of the big things I do if I get caught into it is I tap my knee. I'm very sensory oriented. I talked about like the cold showers that I'll take to kind of wake myself up. But to just stay in the present, like that's in the past, and it happened, and it helped shape me with who I am, but I can't get stuck on it.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
then it's causing me pain, and the other person maybe doesn't even remember doing it, And so the big part of it is I'm able to help people I never would have been able to help, and relate with people. Like when I heard you share it on the podcast the other day, I was like, way to go, Jenny.
Yeah.
Like, you're an inspiration. I love you so
We're
much.
not so different.
Yeah, exactly.
See, a prime example.
Yeah.
So with forgiveness, I know forgiveness is really hard. We really struggle with it.
Yeah.
So what did that forgiveness feel like for you? What did it give you, being able to forgive?
It was hard. It was really hard to get to that point of forgiveness, and I probably didn't hit it until about, a couple months ago of full forgiveness, right? But it's a relieving feeling that I don't have to be a prisoner to that situation that happened, 10 plus years ago. I was kind of set free. And I did that by like working with others and seeing other people do it. Like it gave me strength seeing someone else go through that and come out on the other side and say, hey, like I'm no longer a victim, I'm a survivor, And but it's a great feeling. And forgiveness to this day can still be hard in some situations, but you got to do it. And I think it starts with learning to forgive yourself. That's a very crucial thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that gets overlooked a lot.
Because in our addiction, we deal with, if you're an AA guru, it's like called the spirituality, right? The stuff the unmanageability inside of you that tells you you're not good enough, that, you can't do this, you're gonna fail and everything like that. And I think a lot of us deal with that. It's about battling that inside of you, and you do that by forgiving, trusting in other people, trusting, in my case, a higher power that I choose to call God.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling in the world when you can forgive someone and you can forgive yourself. You're born again when that happens.
Yes.
You really are.
It's like your soul has a rebirth, I feel like.
We change in sobriety, right? Like when we really work on our issues, we fully change. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're absolutely right.
I'm really passionate about this. That they say a tiger doesn't change its stripes and stuff like that. In the case of an alcoholic, they do.
We do.
For anyone who's struggling out there, like I will say this. Sobriety is one of the few things in life that the grass is greener on the other side.
It always
is.
It
really is.
I always say the sunny side of sobriety, because it is definitely greener on the side of sobriety.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you're big into AA.
Yes, yes.
For you, what would you say is one of the most valuable tools that you've learned in AA?
trusting in a higher power and trusting in other people, right? And realizing that I can't do it myself. There's a lot of, and I'm big on that. I'm big on like leaning on other people. For my first, I would say, year of sobriety, I pretty much ran everything through my sponsor, right? I was like, all of my life decisions that I made up to this point have led me to misery, right? So I've got to do something different, and I don't know how to live. Like when I checked into Gratitude Lodge and then went to sober living, like I didn't even know how to do my own laundry. You know, I had zero.
A lot of people have no idea how to do anything, any life skills.
Yeah, and I feel like I've picked up a lot of life skills, and I think that's the benefit of sober living attached with IOP and everything like that. I will always encourage someone who's been through years of addiction to go through that. You're able to uncover a lot about yourself as well as pick up life skills. And honestly, I wish I was kind of back in treatment because it was kind of the most fun of my life. Like it really was. Like you have very minimal responsibilities other than just working on yourself.
Yeah, no,
like,
it is.
awesome.
It is a great time to just focus on you. Don't worry about anything else. Get the tools in place, the therapy, meet some cool people. I know for me, when I first got sober, I was terrified of what I was going to do for sober fun and having a routine and all these things, and being able to learn that those things are okay and you can have fun through treatment is great. So for you, on the daily, what is it that really keeps you sober? What is kind of your mantra that you go through?
God.
That keeps you sober?
Yeah, God.
God.
It's as simple as that. Yeah.
I thought you said got it. I'm like, okay, let's hear it.
No, G-O-D. Yeah.
G-O-D.
Yeah, it really is. I was never really a spiritual person before the program. And, you know, when I started trusting in something other than myself, that's when the things started to change.
Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like
Go ahead.
in
We
my
can take
throat.
it. Yeah.
How did you find your higher power? Because this is something that is talked about often. I hear it often where a sponsor will say to a sponsee, go pray on it.
Yeah.
And I will hear this person come to me, you know, at the center, wherever, just in everyday life, and say, Jenny, like, they tell me to go pray, and I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to go pray. I don't know how to tap into my higher power. How do I do this? How do I start doing this? So what do you suggest to someone out there that's being told to go pray? You know, how do you do that?
So if you are into AA and you are told to go pray, just go through the motions, right? Because you don't necessarily feel it at first. And I don't really know a specific time when I felt God in my life in terms of like, I felt the change in me. It was when I had a chance to look back, but just go through the motions. You know, it's a very tricky subject for a lot of people. I know when I first came into AA and I read like the second and the third step, higher power and God, I was like, this ain't for me. You know, it was only until I was beaten into that state of surrender that I could change and accept that kind of help. But with my experience with it is, I finally was able to stay sober for longer than 2 days. And I knew that wasn't me. And everyone's experience is different, and no one's way is right or wrong. And no higher power is greater than another. Like if you want to make it the ocean,
Whatever
I
works
totally
for you.
understand that. You know, I just choose to call it God because it's...
For me, it's the universe.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, because I had a really hard time with it at the beginning too, just putting it just God, you know, just as God. And I did the universe, and that we're all connected in this energy, and that worked for me. But I mean, it can be anything, whatever works for you.
Just as long as it's not you.
As long as it's not you, you have to get out of self. It's very important.
That's a very important. Like I've always, like I'm big on the 12 steps, of course, but I do believe in other routes for other people. Not for me personally, because I tried them all.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there are other routes for other people, and I'm not here to judge. Like if you're in recovery and you find a place of how to live life and be happy, like I'm happy for you. Like if you don't want to be a part of AA, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just whatever makes you happy.
To each their own. As long as they
exactly.
Find something.
Yeah, I'm not like one of these like people who want to judge people.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big burden to take on.
No, we don't want to take on that burden. I don't want to judge anybody.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's
way
too much.
Because then I feel like I'm being judged all the time. Like if
Yeah.
I'm judging other people, that means I feel
We're
like I'm
definitely
being.
going to be judged. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So being a father, up and coming,
Yeah.
if your son or daughter came to you and was getting into drugs, right? Maybe it was just recreationally, just socially, and they were coming to you and saying, hey, you know, I just wanted to be honest, I went and did this.
Yeah.
What would that conversation be?
So first of all, I've had the conversation with my girlfriend, with her being in recovery as well. And when the time is right, we are going to sit down with them and kind of share our story on it. But at the end of the day, I can't control him. My parents did a really good job of kind of, you know, because my mom understood what addiction was and letting me experience it. And I think because of that, I was able to get sober at a younger age versus going through 30, 40 years of hard, you know, alcoholism and drug addiction.
That's a really good point, because I think that's what happens a lot of the times, that there's not that experience or that openness where you can talk candidly. And I think having that conversation, that it's not taboo, that it's okay to talk about this and to use your real life experience would be really beneficial.
Yeah.
You know?
And to let them know, like, you know, hey, like this, you know, at least genetically it's in there, you know. I do believe somewhat in some instances where, you know, once you taste it, it's go time, you know, and there's nothing that you can do about it. That's how I felt, at least, right? Like, no matter what happened in my life, regardless if I had trauma or went through the uncomfortable phase of not knowing who I was, like, I was going to be an alcoholic. Like, no matter what happened in my life, what kind of family I was brought into. So it's in there. And I think being completely open and honest with my son, and if I have any other kids, with them as well.
So you're having a son?
I am, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, baby boy, his name's Luca.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Luka, I think is what we're gonna settle with.
Okay.
We're not 100%.
I like that, Luca.
Yeah, it means beam of light, so we think
Aww,
it, yeah.
I love that.
So we're
Very
excited.
Cool. Nice. So when you look into the future with yourself and sobriety, all these doors that open, that continue to open, you were a client at Gratitude, then you're support staff, now you're doing business development and outreach and admissions. Where do you see yourself going in sobriety?
To be honest, I have no idea. I'm kind of more along for the journey at this point, because I had no idea that I would get here in the first place. I'm surrounded by a group of guys that I work with that I truly believe in, like, the goal that we have set, which is to help people and give people an opportunity to have better lives. I want to continue my work with them no matter what my journey goes, whether that's continue to work at the position I'm at or, you know, something else opens up. But no matter what, I want to be connected and tied with Gratitude for as long as I possibly can be. But as far as end goal and everything like that, I guess something that would be cool, that would be interesting to me, is getting into like adolescent treatment. I believe that in our generation, at least in mine, there's a lot of people that started using drugs at a really young age, and there wasn't as much education and the education that there was, it was more like, you know, we made fun of it, you know, and stuff like that. Because there was, I didn't care at that point. And I also didn't know. Like, to me, like, treatment and everything like that was like, you're going to the 7th floor of the hospital.
Right.
You're in the psych ward. Like,
that's
stuff
it.
like that. And like, I think it would be cool to get into that and to kind of catch it at a younger age, you know, because once we get sober, who knows how life can turn out. You know?
Yeah, it twists and turns in so many different ways. I never thought we would be sitting here right now doing this. So anything is possible in sobriety.
I know.
That's for sure.
I know. It's amazing. It really is. And I encourage that if anyone is struggling right now, that they know that they can reach out, right? Because there's a whole lot of people out there who our sobriety depends on you reaching out for us to help, you know?
And I love asking this question. Sobriety, if you were to define it, what is sobriety to you?
So I think this is one of those questions where if you ask me like a month from now, it may change.
Okay, well, what is it right now in this moment?
Right now, it's gratitude.
Gratitude.
You know, being stuck in a place that, like, I really am happy with where I am. But it changes, you know. Sobriety to me is loving myself and loving others in a way that I never understood. It's one of those things where it's really hard to describe until you're in it. Just like love is, like, you don't really know it until you feel it. And it's an awesome experience.
I absolutely agree with you. I feel that we have this connection and this love for each other. And I tell people all the time in recovery, like, I love you.
Yeah.
I see you. I hear you.
I hug a lot more people.
You're not alone. Yeah, I know. I'm
Yeah.
constantly hugging people.
Yeah.
Of course, being safe, but
We do virtual hugs now.
we do
you know?
virtual hugs. Yeah, but it is this love, this immense love and understanding that we have for each other. And yes, I'm always preaching about gratitude, because I feel like if we're in a state of gratitude, nothing else really matters.
Exactly.
You know, no matter how hard our day is, whatever we're going through, we can get into gratitude.
Yeah, when I'm struggling, it's usually because I'm not living in gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And being able to be aware of that and get into gratitude is the best thing we could do.
And I always feel kind of dumb when I'm not in gratitude, living in Southern California, when it's like 75 and sunny year round.
Right.
The beach is right there, the mountains are right there.
Like today, it's 80 degrees out in the beginning of March.
I know. And I'm not stuck inside my room by myself drinking or causing problems to my family and everything. Like, I have a relationship with my family today that I never thought I would have, an extreme appreciation for them.
Life is good.
Life is perfect.
You're sober. You're about to be a dad.
Yeah.
You have an amazing girlfriend. You have an amazing job, a family that's sober.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well,
I'm
thank you
excited for the
coming.
future. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. It was so good to have you. I'm so excited for you to have a baby. You'll have to bring him on. We'll do a live with the baby.
I'm about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yay. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you next time. Have a good weekend. Bye.